Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grandstand Sports Data. In today's video, we will be continuing our 13 chapter series on the art of sports betting. We will be educating you on what we call the 13 pillars for turning you from a square to a sharp with similar principles to the book The Art of War. We will be providing action steps through each of the chapters so you can improve your betting approach and get you betting more responsibly. We will also add our final thoughts from the 17 years of experience that we have betting on sports. So let's get right into it. Welcome to Chapter 10, Record Keeping. And let's be honest, this is where most bettors fall short, right? So, as Sun Tzu once said back a long time ago, he who knows the terrain and knows himself will not be defeated in 100 battles. And in betting terms, the terrain is basically the sports betting market, right? And then knowing yourself means understanding your habits, your strengths, your weaknesses, and then the actual data behind your bets. So, the goal of this chapter is going to be simple. We want to help you build a complete self awareness system through consistent, structured tracking and analysis. Why? So you can make data driven decisions, optimize your edge, and then manage your bankroll with clarity. That's how you win in the long term. Not by guessing, not by vibes, but by knowing. And we'll break down how to use record keeping to refine your system, spot patterns, build sustainable strategies, and course correct when things go a little bit off track. So this is about understanding your own battlefield and then fighting smarter than the market. So let's get into it. All right, so let's clear something up before we really get into the good stuff in the video. Record keeping and bet tracking are not the same thing. So most bettors think that if they're logging their bets into a spreadsheet that they're just doing enough. And you're not. That's only really half the picture. Record keeping is the other half, and that's more of your big picture tool, right? This is where you track the market itself, your fundamental factors, your technical factors, which would be your power ratings, your models, things of that nature, and anything that really contributes to building your overall betting plan. So it isn't really necessarily about the results, it's going to be about the insights. You're collecting intel, so you can eventually say to yourself, this rest edge in basketball, it wins at about 58% of the time, and that's worth tracking, and I'm going to put it into my system. Think of it like gathering intelligence before going into the battle. Now, on the flip side, bet tracking. That's where you execute. That's where you log in your actual bets, and then you'll track them over time. It's tracking your bets, it's tracking your bankroll, and it's also going to track your bankroll units if you do that for your bet size and strategy. So if you don't worry about it, but it should if you do break down your bankroll into units. Now, let's put this simply. Record keeping is more of building the plan, bet tracking is following the plan, but when you use both or when reviewing both, that's how you improve the plan. And when we talk about plan, remember that's in chapter 1. So you go all the way back to chapter 1. Basically what we did throughout this series is we gave you the layout in chapter 1 and then we dove deep into those certain sections in chapter 1 by making more chapters. So it's not necessarily like we're reinventing the wheel. Just go back to chapter 1 and they'll show you some things that maybe you missed out on earlier. So we'll dive into more of these details as we go on in the video. But if you're not record keeping, it's a must starting today. All right, so how do you actually track and record keep your bets? Let's break it down. First, you're going to have your classic tools like Excel or Google Sheets. And these are highly customizable and they're perfect if you want full control over how you organize your data. You can filter by bet type, market, confidence level, sport, the list goes on and on. Fundamental factors, technical factors, whatever you want to put in your record keeper, you can put in there and you can analyze it, right? If you're someone who wants to build a system from scratch, this is going to be your best bet. And honestly, it's what we use here at Grandstand Sports Data for our record keeping needs. Next is going to be some of the bet tracking apps. Remember, these are only for bet trackers. This app section. It's BetStamp, Action Network, Odds Jam, and it's a solid tracker for your results in terms of the betting world. Now, we use something different. We're going to include a link in the description down below, and it's to one of our free bet tracker templates. It's from AussieSportsBetting.com. It's a great place to start. It's where we started. We've built our own bet tracker over the years here at Grandstand Sports Data, but we've used this one previously for years and it's worked magic. Now, the one con I do have about it and what led me to make our own is it doesn't do enough for the bankroll section. Doesn't have much bankroll, doesn't break it down into units, but in terms of bet tracking, it will show you everything that you need. For the final category, custom templates, this is anything. This could be your old school guy who's still at his kitchen table with the yellow notebook, right? Anything that factors in the record keeping in terms of, and we'll touch on it later in the video, but this is more of our people who are, I guess I will call them computer challenged. That's more of the custom templates, but also it can bleed into the the technology world, and you can use it as the top one, which is spreadsheets and customizing them. So it's basically both. Now, here's the thing with record keeping, it's a little bit of a different beast, right? There aren't many, if any, tools out there that will help you truly log your market reads, your fundamental factors, your technical angles, all in one place. That's why we create our own using Excel. And if you're serious about betting long term, you'll need to customize a tracker that fits your edge. And don't worry, we've got you covered. At the end of the series, so at the end of these 13 chapters, we'll be putting out a video on how to create your own record keeper. Step by step, we'll go through the process with you so you can build a system tailored to your strategy. And we'll show you what will have to be included and what are some things that you may not have to include in your record keeper. But make sure to subscribe and be the first one to see that video. Remember, it's coming out right after this series concludes. All right, so let's talk about what you need to track in your bet tracker. And now, this isn't your record keeper. This is your day-to-day stat sheet, your scorecard, your bet tracker. So some of the things will overlap with your record keeper, but this is strictly about tracking the execution of your bets. And let's walk through these. Some of them are very self-explanatory, like date, right? You should have the date, you should have the sport, the league, the selection. Those are things that are kind of obvious. Obviously, your bet type as well. You want to know if it's spread, money line, total, prop, future. Uh, Also, bookmaker. Some people may say, why the bookmaker? Because you have to go back to our shop and odds chapter, basically, because some books offer better odds. They offer limits on your selections, and then some of them will even offer soft lines. So you're going to notice some patterns over time, and that's why you should really keep track of your bets and log in who the bookmaker was for that specific bet. Next will be things like your reasoning. Your reason will obviously be based on your variables or your factors. You here, Grandstand Sports Data will have, let's say, 5 total factors for a specific sport. We don't place a bet just because one team fulfilled all 5 of those factors. No, there's sometimes we do it when there's 3 factors that align, 4 factors align. Well, that's what we put under our reasoning. We'll list the 4 factors, we'll list the 3 factors, whatever the case may be. You need your reasoning. Sometimes, yes, all the stars do align and they will fulfill the edge for each of those 5 factors. And yes, that would be, that would be probably something that you would want to happen on every occasion, every day, but it's not likely. But you should be logging in your reason. Obviously, your stake, how much you're betting, that's self-explanatory. You should be doing that. Also, your odds, you should be logging in the odds. This is going to be huge when you're trying to do that closing line value. Remember that measurement is very, very important for big market sports. Your result that goes, without, if you're not putting in the result, then you shouldn't even be watching the video. So, I mean, it's that simple. Also, profit and loss on the specific wager. Next will be confidence ratings. This is a confidence rating, say for, I would say for more of my fundamental handicappers. They're more scared of the numbers. So instead of them looking at the advanced performance metrics, they will do a scale of 1 through 5 on how confident they are on specific bets. So that's what confidence rating means. Um, Next, moving on to the performance metrics that we were just talking about. Performance metrics are what? Your win percentage, your return on investment, your profit and loss in terms of units. And then it's going to be the more advanced ones that you're talking about, when it comes to your standard deviation. You want to know how volatile you are. You're going to look at confidence levels, and you're going to also look at Z scores. So those are some things we're going to touch on a little bit later, but you can implement them into your bet tracker and see how well you're doing. And it also kind of tells you your future success as well. Next would be your total bankroll value. This is going to be huge, right? Your bet tracker should be holding on to your bankroll as well. It makes it fast and easy for assessment days, which we will touch on a little bit later. And then finally, bankroll broken into units. This is if you're a unit better, right? If you're not, if you're just a fixed better, don't worry about it. You don't have to put it in. But this goes without saying, if you are a percentage better, Kelly criterion, anything of the like, if you break it down into if you break your bankroll down into units, you need to have it put into that bet tracker. Final note here is this is just for your bet tracker. Remember that. It's not your record keeper will go deeper into analyzing your edge, your market movement, system building variables, all that good stuff, right? There's going to be some overlap, and that's okay, but keep the purpose of each tool in mind. Your bet tracker is about what you actually did. Your record keeper is about what you're learning to do. All right, now that we covered what goes into your bet tracker, let's talk about your record keeper. This is going to be the heart of your system, right? This is where you learn, adjust, and eventually build long term betting success. You want to set up one record keeper per sport or league that you handicap. And everything that you track should fall into one of the 5 color coded categories that we're going to show you throughout this video. I shouldn't say throughout this video, within the next couple slides. We're going to break down the first 3 here. Let's start with number 1, which is going to be your bet info. And this is basically the foundation and keeps it clean and very consistent. You're going to have the date. They're pretty self-explanatory. Date, self-explanatory. We showed you in the bet tracker. Next would be identifier. And this could be just a rotation number. We'll show you how we use it here at Grandstand Sports Data a little bit later. Next would be home and away. You want to know the home and away splits. Next will be your bet type. And this isn't necessarily mean bet type like put spread, total, and money line. You should, but remember, if your record keeper is only measuring one, so if it's only measuring money line, you just have to put the odds. You don't necessarily have to put the bet type. Next and finally, for your bet information should be teams involved. And not just teams involved. If you do props, do the overs, unders, whatever it is that you have, but just mention everything that's involved. Now, let's move on to market analysis. And that's going to be number 2. The number 2 thing that you should put in your record keeper. You want your market analysis. Now, somebody's going to raise their hand here and say, hey, I bet in a small market. Do I really need to do market analysis? I want you guys to pause the video and answer that question in the comment section down below. Unpause now. And the answer to that is no, you can skip number 2. If you're betting in a small market, then that means there basically is no market. You're going to get much, much more value from going to number 3. But let's say you are betting in a big market. Let's touch on what you should be record keeping. Number 1 will be the closing line. You want to compare your bet to the final line to track that closing line value. It's one of the most important factors when it comes to sports betting. Next will be the contrarian side. So did you bet on the side that only had 30% or less of the public bets? This is powerful. In some sports, it's worth analyzing, right? Next will be bet percentage versus bet money percentage. This basically show where the bets and money are going. Big difference between the two can indicate sharp action. Finally will be bet signals. This is you're going to track whether you had, reverse line movement, maybe steam, sharp action, all those, that good stuff. This data adds up over time and you should be tracking it because it could show you some really, really good edges as your record keeper builds and progresses. Now, let's move on to number 3. This is going to be handicapping factors. It's going to be a third stage in the record keeping process. This is where the real edge lives. So you're going to log in the reason for your bet or your specific factor. Was it a model play? Was it a matchup edge? Was it an injury, motivation, weather, coaching? The list goes on and on and on. And the field ties directly back to what you're testing in your system. Next will be your confidence ratings. Remember, this is for more of the guys who are scared of the data. When I say guys, I'm sorry. Men, women, whoever. Hey, listen, we don't judge here. We love everybody. As long as you love betting, we love you. But the confidence rating in this instance is specific to the handicapping factor, not necessarily your results. It's tied to the confidence rating that you have in the specific factor. And that's if you're not tracking it with the advanced performance metrics that we talked about. Just want you to remember that. If you do have the advanced performance metrics, you can skip the confidence rating. Now, there are two more important categories that we're going to touch on. These were the first three, so let's go on to the rest of the video. All right, so now let's close out the record keeper layout with the last two sections. And you can see them here. It's results, and then there's performance metrics. Starting with the results, though, you want to log in the final score. You always want to log this. Don't rely on memory. And final score can be anything, right? It could be the final score between the teams that the actual game that you were that was logged into your record keeper. It could also be in terms of props. Some people will say, "How do you have a final score for props?" Well, for you could just put one next to the one that came out on top, and a zero next to the one that did not. Same thing with totals, or you can even do the calculation from the final score. Next will be the profit and loss. You're going to track this as either units or dollar amount, but you need to be consistent across your whole sheet. If you switch formats mid-season, your data is going to be less useful. The last one we don't use here at Grandstand Sports Data, but we have to put it in because that's how we are. We're transparent. We don't use it, but I have to give it to you. And I have to show it to you and explain it to you in a way that you understand. Post-game notes are basically your excuse for the bet. Say if you handicap the Boston Celtics game 5 against the New York Knicks, and Jason Tatum was a huge part of your handicapping for that specific game. In the post-game notes, I would say you would not put that Jason Tatum got injured in the final 2 minutes of the game. That did not negatively or positively affect your bet. There was 40 other fucking minutes in the game. Now, if he got injured with 10 minutes left in the first quarter, now you could possibly put that in your post-game notes because he was a huge part of your handicapping going into the game, and he only played 2 minutes. You see where I'm going with this? You don't want to necessarily make excuses for yourself. It needs to be something that really impacted the game for you to say, like Mahomes getting injured in the first quarter, something huge. That's what I'm trying to kind of get across. We don't use it here at Grandstand Sports Data, so I have to let you know that. We don't give excuses. It is what it is. We let the results do the talking. Now, let's move on to number 5, which is going to be the performance metrics, right? This is where we step back and you look at your performance with a wider lens. And you're doing it for each factor. Remember that. You're doing it for each factor. You're doing it for each market analysis factor that you have. All of them. Even a combination of them. So, the first one's going to obviously be your win-loss record. It's obvious but necessary. Don't just obsess over it. It's not basically the full story, but you need it. Next will be your return on investment. This is the true profitable stat, right? If you bet 1,000 and you made 100, your ROI is 10%, and you need to know that. Next will be your profit in terms of, in money or in units. I like it better in units, but some people will use, your money. Simple total gain and loss is tracked over time. It's better to do it in units because you can actually speak the language with other sports bettors, like I'm up this amount of units betting this specific sport. Next will be your advanced evaluation tools. We've been talking about this throughout the whole video, right? This is for the guys who do want to get more into the technical handicapping. So I would say that if you're a fundamental guy, you stop at the first 3 bullets, but you should try to dip your toe in the water for these next ones. And these next ones are standard deviation. This is going to tell you how volatile your results are. Helps you understand the streaks versus randomness. Next would be your z-score. Think of it as measuring how rare or significant a betting outcome was. A z-score of 2 plus is something that's not likely to happen often. Just keep that in mind. And last will be your confidence intervals, and these can give you a range of results that you expect going forward based on what you've done so far. So confidence intervals could be, you're 95% sure that this game's going to end in a 6-point margin of victory or 8-point margin of victory, in between those two. Now, an important note is that none of these metrics matter if you don't have enough bets, right? So sample size is everything. Let me be really clear here. Do not evaluate a factor like rainy games or lefty pitcher matchups after only like 10 or 15 bets. That's a trap. You'll end up chasing bullshit. Track everything, but don't grade anything until the sample size is large enough to trust the data. And then that's how you keep false confidence and panic from derailing your strategy. Now, in the next slide, we're going to show you exactly how this works using an NHL record keeper example. We'll walk through it step by step so you can see all the information that we just went through. All right, so let's touch on the bet tracker, very briefly. I don't want to take too much time on this, but as you can see in red, remember in red we were talking about our bet information. You're talking about the date, you're talking about the identifier, remember the number? Just like I kind of specified. Look at Buffalo. They played the first game of the NHL season this year against New Jersey, so we put number 1. What happens when they played their second game? Number 2. Now St. Louis here, they're playing their first game of the year, even though it's the third game on the slate in the NHL season. It's their first game. And that's how we wanted to identify it. First game for St. Louis, yada, all that good stuff. Now, other thing would be home and away. You see here. We also have the money line. That's what we're tracking. We only do money line bets in NHL. We don't do the spread. We don't do any of that stuff. But we have money lines, and that's what the record keeper is based on. Next will be the teams involved. You'll have team and opponent. We'll have 2 rows for it. That way we can filter our results. Next will be the factors, right? These are the factors now. Remember the ones in black are the market. NHL is a small market, so you don't need to do it, but I needed to show you. I have to show you because some of you guys are going to do big markets, and if you don't have this closing line value, you are going to be smoked. So if you are betting in a big market, this is exactly where it should be, your very first factor. Now, some people will say, well, how does it show closing line value? You're just going to put a little X next to it. Well, you can do the alternative, right? You can do right next to this money line over here, another column for the closing money line, right? And then you'll know side by side. We choose to do X's because it's simple, it's quick, and it's efficient. It's much more faster than, typing in the numbers on this side in the column. Also, you're going to see a contrarian here, your contrarian factor. There was no X's for this. This was very early in the season, so we didn't necessarily have it. You would have seen a lot of X's throughout the year. Now, the blue ones are going to be our handicapping factors. You're talking about your fundamental factors. You're talking about your technical factors. We only have one technical factor when it comes to our NHL, and it's our model. And that's right here in blue. The other 3 will be NHL. This is testing what in terms of our fundamental handicapper? Player quality. Next would be the rest differential. And then we have 3 games in 4 nights. Those were the 4 factors that we were most interested in when it talked about. We also did back-to-back. We did a few more, but we wanted to decorate the record keeper so that we could translate this easy for you guys. So you basically seen the first 3 options, which were bet information, market analysis, and then your factors. Now let's go on to the results. These are the results right here. These are the score of the games. So 4-1, New Jersey beat Buffalo in that very first game. But the results bleed on. It tells you the differential, which is a 3-score differential. It's going to show you, how much you've made if you made a bet on that, and then how much in terms of the profit. As you can see, it's on every $1 bet. So on the time, if you bet on Buffalo in this specific game, you would have lost $1, whereas you would have made very close to 67 cents if you were bet on New Jersey. Now, up here is going to be your performance metrics. Now, I just want you to I want to show you that these are not necessarily the facts, right? Obviously, the record keeper showing, 1,300, almost close to 1,400 wins, 1,400 losses. You got to remember that's because we listed a team to win and a team to lose for almost every game. And the win percentage is not necessarily going to be accurate as well. But when is it accurate? It's accurate when you filter these factors, when you line them up. Maybe you filter NHL and you say when teams satisfy the edge of NHL 2K, or we said NHL 2K, NHL 25, and also along with our model, so they fulfill 2 edges. What's the win-loss percentage? What's the profit and loss units? What's the rate on return on that? What about if we filtered home teams only with closing line value and NHL 25, them having the edge in that? What would be the win-loss? What would be the win percentage? And so on and so forth. That's how you navigate through a record keeper, which will identify your system and help you make better bets. Okay, so why does record keeping actually even matter? Well, it's going to identify profitable sports, bet types, and systems. We just showed you that, right, from the last slide. Next, it's going to flag consistent loss areas. Example would be your sport, your team, your line, your type. Maybe some things are not really working in your record keeper, and you know that you're going to want to stay away from those. Next is going to expose some of your behavioral flaws. And what I mean by this is maybe you say some things in your record keeper that show you, hey, this should be implemented into your plan. But then when you look at your bet tracker, you're making stupid bets when like you're drunk or you're doing stupid shit and you're not paying attention and you just your friend says, hey, bet this, they're a can't miss, and you're like, hey, let's go for it. So then your bet tracker is gonna show you how stupid you've been, number one, and why you haven't measured with your record keeper. Next will be it measures the closing line value. Remember that in big markets, this is humongous. It's the number one factor you have to have. I would say that all the market factors you should include. We touched on those in the previous slide. You should have those if you're betting NFL, any of the big market sports. Finally is going to be it builds an evidence in terms of an evidence-based process. Instead of guessing, saying, hey, I just like this team with no significant edge, no nothing, you will have numbers to back what you're trying to bet, right? So what's the bottom line here? You don't need to be a genius, but you do need to know yourself, know your results, and evolve from the truth that they show you. And guess what? That truth, that's your plan. That's your path to building a sustainable betting system. Now, stick around because next we're going to show you how to use those results to actually adjust your plan and evolve your edge over time. Let's talk about the most valuable part of record keeping, how to use it to improve. Because tracking data means nothing if you don't use it to sharpen your edge. So first off, here's how you build up that data. You want to track your factors throughout the season. As the season goes on, you want to log in everything, right? We showed you. We put little X's next to injuries, rest spots, matchup edges, weather, coaching angles, everything, right? Whether you use it in your handicapping or not. Over time, you're going to start to see some patterns, and this is going to be the ongoing part of the record keeper. Next, you're going to, or I wouldn't say next, but here's an alternative way that instead of tracking, you can back test results from previous seasons. So if you've been logging things for a few years or can pull historical box scores, or you can even find some historical data to do exactly what we showed you in the record keeper, and then you can even go back numbers of years. Now you're starting to get some sample size, and that's going to show you if you really do have a specific edge or not. After that, you're going to want to evaluate. It's that evaluation phase, right? Analyzing the results. Don't just look at the win-loss records. You want to dig into that win percentage, profit and loss in terms of units, return on investments, maybe those advanced metrics that we were talking about, z-score, standard deviation if you even want to go deeper. Finally, and the whole point of all of this is you want to implement what works and eliminate what doesn't. That's what assessment days are for, and they're structured days where you pause and analyze your data and refine your plan. This is how you evolve as a sports bettor. I just want you to remember though, first you're going to compile the data, ongoing login, or even with the back testing. So that's how you're going to want to compile the data. Then you're going to analyze that data, which will be the third column, evaluation. Then you're going to want to improve your system by keeping what works and dumping what doesn't. Very simple, right? Now, we talked about it in the last slide, and we're really going to hammer it home here. And that's assessment days. This is going to be the heartbeat of your long-term betting success. First things first, though, when do you schedule these? Well, you want to schedule them during dead spots in your sports calendar, right? Days with limited or no betting action at all. There's no distractions. That way you can focus fully on improving your system instead of reacting to the board, right? If you're betting NFL, college football, you might find that Tuesday or Wednesday where it's a good day to just assess everything, right? If you're betting NHL, you might have to do it on maybe, I think it's Thursdays where they have a week slate, or it's Mondays. That's where I find it to be a little bit better. I think NBA is more Thursday. And that's where you set up these assessment days. They might have to be a little bit more frequent though for sports that are played every day. You have to remember that because you're consistently betting almost on a daily basis. Now, let's get into the step-by-step process though. Step number 1 is going to be on your assessment day. The first thing that you want to do, you want to update your bankroll and your unit size, right? You want to look at your total profit or loss to the date. You're going to recalculate your unit size if needed. So if your bankroll has grown or shrunk significantly, you want to adjust accordingly. This is going to keep your bet sizing aligned with your bankroll health. Now, you're going to move on to step number 2, which is review the bet tracker. So you want to go to the bet tracker first. You want to double check that your log bets match the system that you've designed. You want to break things down by sport, by bet type, and by handicap and factor. You want to see what types of bets are working and what's falling flat. Also, like I spoke on the last slide, you also want to track those stupidity bets, right? Like if your friend recommended something or you were drunk and just wanted to pull the trigger on something. That's going to show you how often you're doing this and basically to tell you, stop that shit. Number 3 is going to be plan versus execution. You kind of want to ask yourself the hard questions. Did I miss any bets in my system that it called for? Did I override the model? Did I, just miss something in general? Was my stake size an inconsistent or was it consistent? Or did emotion creep in, just like we touched on? This step keeps you accountable, most importantly, and then it's also systems only work if you follow them. So that's what it's basically trying to exercise is that you want to make sure that your plan was executed. Number 4 is going to be you want to review record keepers by category. And what I mean by this is you want to go through one factor at a time. Maybe you go through home and away splits. Maybe you go through that closing line value. Maybe the contrarian play, rest days, matchup edges, etc., etc. You want to go through them one at a time. After that, start combining them. What happens when injury plus motivation overlap? What happens when the team satisfies, having the home field advantage along with the better rest? These are things that you want to calculate over time. And then finally, you want to connect factors with market information. How did your reads line up with the closing line value, your bet percentage data, and steam moves overall? This is where you find the good stuff. Number 5 is going to be you want to identify repeatable patterns, right? Highlight the angles that are winning consistently. Flag the ones that are costing you money, or your record keeper is showing that you could potentially cost you money. And you want to take notes on anything that needs to be tracked differently or even looked at again. Now, finally, you want to refine the plan. Take the proven edge and install them into your system going forward. Remove the dead weight, those that are underperforming angles that aren't necessarily helping. And then most importantly, you want to document all the changes to your model, the thresholds, maybe the variables. This creates continuity and clarity for your next assessment day. Final thought on this is that this process is non-negotiable. If you want to become the type of bettor who evolves over time, you need to have assessment days. Anyone can guess and get lucky for a while, but if you want to build something that lasts, assessment days are where the real work happens. Okay, look, some of you are going to watch this whole series, maybe even take a few notes, and still never start tracking. Don't let that be you. That's the real losing bet. This doesn't, have to be complicated. For me, it's like brushing my teeth. It's part of my morning routine at this point. I wake up, I refine my model, I open my record keeper, I update the record keeper, and boom, within 30 minutes, I know what I'm betting and why. Now, I've been doing this for years, so your process may take a little bit longer at first, and that's okay. It's not about speed, it's about consistency. And trust me, you'll be quicker than me as time goes on. You need to hear me here. Don't overload yourself. I see beginners, and this is another mistake, they'll track 27 different stats before they've even figured out how to log win-loss records properly, right? And that's crazy. Don't do that. Go back to our chapters on handicapping and finding value. So handicapping would be your technical handicapping, your fundamental handicapping, also finding value. That's where we show them more of the market analysis. And you want to build from there. Simple questions, small wins, then layer on more. That's it. And yeah, I know a lot of you come to Grandstand Sports Data for models, the stats, and those sexy spreadsheets, right? And that's great. I love that stuff too. But let me be clear. That's not what makes you a profitable bettor. It's not models alone. It's models plus market reading, plus matchup understanding, plus record keeping. It's combining everything into a system that finds edge and then pounding the shit out of those edges over time. Here's the truth for you guys: 95% of sports bettors have no record keeper and no bet tracker. Nothing. They're just guessing. They're vibing. They're basically chasing bullshit. Please be the 5%. Even if you don't win, you'll be learning. You'll be building. You'll be in the best position possible to eventually win. And that's what we preach here at Grandstand Sports Data, right? Put yourself in the best position to win. That's basically going to be our model by the end of the series. So, like this video, drop a comment down below on your thoughts or questions, and don't forget to subscribe. We've got more chapters coming up to finalize, basically about 2 or 3 more, and we'll see you guys in the next one.